We're talking about communication today as a yogic practice, which means that it's going to require work. And likely the techniques that will be provided tonight will not be remembered perfectly. So we'll take it slowly. We'll have an open and honest conversation with each other. And of course, I'll be checking to see if there are questions. If you have them, I'll do my best to answer. So let's dive in. Welcome, everyone. We've been talking about relationships for a while now. I'd say a solid week. It's because it's kind of an important thing, isn't it? I mean, we put a lot of our effort in our life into maintaining something that could potentially launch us forward. At the end of the day, I think that's the result that pretty much everyone would want to see, at least with their own selves. I would say our parents would want to see that as well. And that's something that I think is important to recognize, that it doesn't require detailed conversations to have healthy conversations. In fact, those who have been in relationships for a while may have systems developed between the two of them that allow for very little to be said and harmony to be established as a result. So that's great. Let's use that as a potential strategy. What we don't want to use as a potential strategy or as a usable strategy is that idea of indifference, and I don't think I've really defined it at all. Talked about it a lot. And it's like love, it's hard to define when we're looking at the polar opposites. And love itself, I would say, is defined often, everyone can say what it feels like. It may be fleeting, it may be established for a long period of time. But it may be hard to define the feeling of indifference when it's being given and received. And it's the feeling of trying to speak to a brick wall. The sound isn't passing through. You know that the heart of someone is on the other side, or it's embedded within, and there's no outlet or avenue for the air to pass through, so the message isn't received. Now, often the recipient of indifference may find themselves thinking, well, I want to project and say, what's wrong with this person? Don't forget at any moment in time that an individual that you invest your time in to say, we are together, is in fact more than anything else a reflection of who you are. And if you accept that, it doesn't diminish the quality of the individual. It simply gives more responsibility to self in terms of how we respond, how we listen, how we act, how we love, how we project. How much damage would you want to do to yourself after everything that you've already been through in your life? Is a legitimate question. It depends on what's going on in the moment, and if this moment is worse than any other, you'll likely find yourself confused. The fortunate thing is there are key components to communication that allow even the most difficult situations to be surpassed and overcome through mindfulness. And I will keep referring to Thich Nhat Hanh's How to Love because it gives great guidelines on how to be mindful with the breath, with listening, even with walking, and most certainly with the direct interaction between self and significant other. To summarize, it is simply a matter of stating if you are on the end where you want union with this individual and you're not receiving what you're used to receiving, which happens all the time, because we cannot predict what is going on in the lives of the other, nor can we understand in its entirety the past of another. We can hope to understand those things beyond the surface and attempt to have a better understanding of how to be receiving the suffering and the projection of a significant other, which is what I would argue a responsibility of an intelligent, cognizant couple that is healthy. It requires constant negotiation. It's like a business that you've had was running really well by yourself, and now you have a moment where love is bursting at the seams and you want to share this with a larger audience. The only way to do it is by offering yourself to another and to connect. And by doing so, you open up the avenues for accelerated growth. Images are imprinted upon one another in the beginning during this honeymoon phase. The more intelligent that you are, I would argue, the more that surfaces immediately, because there isn't the pretentiousness that used to exist, understanding that these cycles of challenge come eventually, no matter who you are, no matter how perfect the person seems, and no matter how stable you may seem to yourself. Undoubtedly, you will come to a point where there is conflict and negotiation will be necessary, or indifference comes into play and says, ghosted, goodbye, can't handle it, don't know why, not willing to explain, sorry. And that story permeates and becomes the same story to use with the next, and the next, and the next, until when? Until the mirror breaks and shatters. At that point in time, the pieces need to be recollected, melted down, reformed, shown to the other. It's distorted. It's a damaged cycle. How do you repair such a thing? We've all probably been in that point where we found ourselves cycling over and over and over again, only to find things are worse off every time around, with less output potential, with less reserves to be able to say, man, why am I doing this? And it's because, I'll tell you, in almost 99% of all cases, the physical aspect is fine. Absolutely fine. You have an argument, you make up. It's easy enough to do it physically. Can't communicate how you feel, take it out physically. Whether it's environmental, verbal, physical, not right, but a comfort zone. That comfort zone has been created, and it's been done through cycles, influenced by what we see in the media, through programming, through our family, through repetition of cycles. It is the only way that we know. Why? It's because the foundation of communication was not set correctly. There is a crack. It is absolutely shattered. And it needs to be completely torn up and reformed again. And that requires work. Why work when we can go onto a social media page or on an app like Bumble or Tinder and send out the friend requests or do the swiping and just find somebody else? Build another foundation that's cracked. It's okay. They won't find out for a while. At least a few months. Maybe. It doesn't matter. They can find out in a week. I'm not going to deal with it. See ya. Next. And what does this do? Arguably, not as much damage as it does to the children in your lives. God forbid you have a child together. Then what happens? A whole lot of legal crap, stuff that's not going to help the child or yourself, and these bonds that exist that really shouldn't, but have been facilitated as a result of technology. Whereas all along, the major portion of this that is missing is communication. So we're here today. We're here because my purpose is to try not only to avoid these situations, but to make everyone as empowered as they can be to feel okay in communicating, because there is nothing more liberating. There is nothing more strengthening for an individual and a couple than to be able to freely communicate without feeling like you're going to be judged, without feeling like you're going to be scrutinized, without feeling like you're going to be laughed at and humiliated. And if it happens, to be intelligent enough to say, this is what's happening, and to communicate it. We're taking the risk by opening our hearts and communicating to another person that they may not receive it. The good news is you've made yourself stronger. Not that you need to be stronger than the other, but you do need to be cared for and loved, if not by another, by yourself. It starts there. You fill the cup, it cascades out, you offer it to the world. Sometimes, if it's a miracle, someone will come forward and say, my God, this is what I've been looking for my entire life, and it's here. Not only can I receive this, but I can reciprocate. And here it is. And guess what? There will come a time when that falters too, and what do? You have to negotiate for the sake of the mountain that is in front of you. It is difficult. It is cold. It is on angles that you have not experienced before, but it is new, and it is certainly worth it. Because at the top, you can see 360 degrees around your entire life and say, this is the next point that I'm going to touch. This is the next place where I'm going to go. And I can get there on a zip line with this person that I love. We know how to do it together. If not, we will hang glide. We will find our way. We will slide down. We will do it. We will laugh. We will fall. We will fail. We will succeed. We will do it all because we're crazy. And that is love. Indifference says, go ahead, on your way. Do it on your own. I'll go down the other way or I'll stay by myself, but it's not your concern anymore. Meanwhile, the person's crying inside. Crying and cold at the top, seeing 360 degrees and no place to go. Because there's no foundation in the communication between themselves and someone that they truly love. Already on the zip line, looking back saying, WTF? We built this together, did we not? Glide with me. Glide with me. We will fail together. We will get ourselves back up. We will be strong. We will be good. So how do you do it? Before you even think about going up that mountain with someone, you have to do your calisthenics. You have to do your work. You have to do your yoga. Understand that yoga means union. It is this pact that you make with yourself. You connect with your breath, pranayam, the surging of energy from the bottom of the spine all the way up to your crown. You realize that that starry-like light that enters into your heart and makes you feel love is just as important as all the crude stuff that comes up from the earth. They're both part of the same thing, as above, so below. It is all there for you to learn. So you work on yourself. And when you're ready to communicate, it's like this. I'm serious. Dead air. You just stay there in the moment and listen. And you'll notice a flow start. There's a little trickle in the beginning, and then the person will just go. And just keep going and going for as long as they need. And you're not thinking about what I need to say in response. If the person says, what is your feedback on that? You offer it. If not, you've done your job. This is a person that receives that person which is suffering, and you've done everything you need to do. Resist the opportunity to judge. Resist the moment where you can say, I told you you were wrong. I told you that was hurtful. I knew this was your intention. Nah, you don't need any of that. You don't need any of that You need the zip line. You need movement. You need progress. You don't need to stay where you are. Listen. Listen to the individual. Tell the individual you're there for them. If anything, the individual finishes, and there's suddenly a great relief brought to the table. Let's say you're on the receiving end. We've talked about this. It has to do with forgiveness. If you're on the receiving end, you tell the individual that you're suffering, and you put your heart out there. You tell someone that they're suffering, that you're suffering, and the other has the opportunity to say, doesn't matter to me, or I receive you. Either way, you've received the message that you need to receive in order to progress. Or progress. And if you progress, you've done your job. How do you progress? Listen, we've made it to this point in the mountain. It says it's X amount of height and meters until we reach the top. It's going to be real stormy if we don't get through this tonight. The more time that goes by, the more we're going to get buried. That's called resentment. Better to work through it. Get to the top. You get to the top. You look at the person that's with you, that's really pissed off that they made it there with you, because it took a lot of effort, but you made it. Before the big storm comes, you're already at the bottom, and you're already looking up and you're saying, wow, that's a beautiful storm. Imagine if you were in it. Wouldn't be so beautiful. Wouldn't feel so good. Not nearly as nice as this beautiful fire that's blazing at your home, where you're reading a beautiful book, or you're snuggling with the person that you love and you've thought to yourself, and looking at them, looking at this beautiful person that you love in their eyes, saying, we made it through this. We made it through this in time to get back and start the fire, have a beautiful meal, and be right with each other. As opposed to being cold by oneself, thinking, what did I do wrong? What did I say? What did I not say? You have to understand that it's very simple. The keys are to say, I'm here for you. The other person says, I'm suffering. Both of you are giving and receiving. At the end, you say, this is a good moment. If it was hurtful, you say, this is what I'm going to do to get better. I've already talked about this. But the yogic communication is hard if you haven't begun your practice. If you go to yoga for the first time in your life and you go into the class, you're going to see a bunch of people doing a lot of wonderful advanced postures. You yourself will be starting with the basics, but it will feel just as hard to try to speak in the first person as opposed to projecting and saying you. That in itself is very hard. Just like mountain pose can be a very challenging posture, even though you're just standing with your feet together. It's not just that. You're activating every single muscle in your feet, every single muscle in your calves. You're activating your butt, your thighs. Your stomach is totally braced. Your shoulders drawn back. Your bandhas are activated. And you're breathing with complete concentration, and you're focusing on the drishti, that point ahead of you. That is the point that you imagine yourself being at the end of this practice when you're totally exhausted. And if you listen to your loved one for an hour and they're ripping into you, you've made it to the end of a very, very hard yoga practice, and you're going to say, that's a great teacher. That teacher made me work my ass off, and I earned it. I wanted to leave the room so many times, but I didn't. I stuck with it. And at the end, when it was all done, I felt this incredible release and a total relief, one like I've never felt before. And that is the power of compassion. And it comes through mindful listening, which is a huge component of communication. Yogic communication is not so much about me blabbering as much as it is listening. Listening is the key component. Nonverbal communication is the key component. Not judging is the key component. When you go to yoga, the most important piece is getting to the end where you have dead pose, savasana. You are not moving, you are on the floor, you are laid out, and you are out of your body. You are out of your body appreciating all of that work that you've done through the asana, which is the posture. The postures, the asana, are designed to wear your body out and wear your mind out so that you give up and your ego says, peace, I can't even mess with you anymore because the mountain is so cold and you've got to make it to the top. I'm letting you do your thing. It's one step at a time. I'll see you later. That's what mindful listening is all about. One word at a time listened to, one step at a time, one offering of love, one breath, one couple. This unity starts from the inside. Remember, you build it up, it cascades out, it blesses the world, starting with the person that you love, that you're looking at, that you're opening up your soul to. That is what it's all about. So remember the key components. I'm here for you. I'm suffering and I need help. If you are the recipient of this person saying, I'm suffering and I need help, you say, I'm here for you, and you listen. That begins the posture, your asana. And you breathe and you listen as if you're trying to be the most loving you've ever been in your life, ever. And you're doing it right now, trying that new posture that you've never tried before, but you have courage tonight and you're doing it, and wow, there's the balance. I didn't realize how easy it was all along. Have you ever had those epiphanies in yoga? That happen to everyone. The next stage, you've seen it happen with others, and now you're doing it yourself, and you realize, wow, that really wasn't that bad. And look at how wonderful this person feels, the one that I love. That's really it. You know, that's really it. It doesn't have to be more than this. Think about what I said. If you want to accelerate through your life, if you feel like this opportunity that you've been gifted to be living in present in the world, which is absolutely profound, is of importance to you, make an effort to listen, not just to the person that you love or that you want to recover a relationship with or that you want to have something go to another level. Separation and unity will always exist in some way. So long as you're listening, you will not be in the storm and you will find harmony between both ends of the swing, of the fluctuation, and you will be totally fine. If you're not fine, talk to me. I will listen to you. I will listen to you. You deserve it. It doesn't matter what anyone says. Listen to me now when I tell you. You deserve to be listened to. You deserve absolute forgiveness. You deserve this present moment as if you are a child that is joyful and filled with love, like the first moment that you could understand what this construct was and were fascinated with it. You deserve it. If you haven't had it in a long time, it could be difficult to understand that you deserve it. So I keep repeating it. You deserve it. Speak to someone like myself who will receive you. I will receive you with open arms and an open heart and a childlike self. And I'm doing it now. Do you understand the secret now? Just by being here and investing your time, you have allowed yourself to receive the reassurance and affirmation that you are of value, that you are worth listening to, that you are beautiful, and that you are loved. You are good. You are strong. You are deserving. Fake it until you make it. That is the first yoga class for every single person. You go in, you don't know what to expect. It feels weird. It feels uncomfortable. But you're here and you stick with it. Or you don't, but you try again. Better to choose this than whatever other convenience you could possibly grab in this moment. I promise. Thank you for listening. I hope this was of help to you, and I wish you have a beautiful evening. Like I said, if you need someone to listen to you, I'm here. Call. Be well.